Mal Meninga has been one of Australia's best-known sportsmen since he burst onto the rugby league scene in Brisbane 30 years ago.
And all eyes on the tunnel now to see whether big Mal Meninga will come out for South. Under a severe injury cloud prior to the match. There he is, the big fella, and he comes onto the field.
Meninga went on to play many tests for the Australian Kangaroos, and in recent years he's become the most successful coach in rugby league's toughest contest in Australia, the annual State of Origin series between rival states, Queensland and New South Wales.
Queensland coach Mal Meninga returned home today with the spoils of a third straight series win.
A little beauty.
He has now stretched that to 8 successive series wins. Mal Meninga traces his heritage back to both Vanuatu and Solomon Islands, as he explained when interviewed with his brother Jeffrey to mark the 150th anniversary of the beginning of the blackbirding trade.
So we know that through the late 1800s, Pop's dad come over here with the Kanakas and worked in the cane fields. Blackbirded off Tanna Island. We believe Nan come from Emelda in the Solomons as well, so that her family was very similar. I think she came down as an orphan.
Yeah, she did.
As an orphan, went into a family on the sunny coast. Is that right?
Yeah, she was actually living with the family at Bly.
Bly, yeah. And that was all to do with the sugar cane.
Between 1863 and 1904, some 50,000 Pacific Islanders were brought to the east coast of Australia to work mostly on sugar plantations. While the trade was supposed to be regulated, there are recorded cases of kidnapping and stories of how many were tricked into what they came to regard as slavery. Between 1906 and 1908, most who had arrived in the last 15 years of the trade were deported back to the islands, but an estimated 2,500 remained and settled in Australia.
I'll always identify with being an Australian South Sea Islander. It's right to my core. It's how I live my life with the values that I was brought up with as an Australian South Sea Islander. It was a great upbringing. It was a disciplined upbringing. It was a respectful upbringing.
The Meningas say they're disappointed they don't know more about how their ancestors were brought to Australia.
Because Pop and Gran didn't talk about it too much. They just wanted to look into the future and give us a good life, and Mum and Dad were probably the same as well.
They do know Pop's father came from Tanna Island in Vanuatu.
Apparently Meninga were the chief warriors on Tanna. So you've got the chief, the Paramount Chiefs, who sort of they're from an elder's perspective. They sort of were the chief people on the island, but we're the chief warriors. So we're the protectors of the chief, the Paramount Chiefs and the people. So ironically enough, they end up being a policeman. So. Jeffrey was too small to do that,
wouldn't he? They wouldn't let me in because I had trouble with my eyes.
So Jeff wanted to be a policeman too, so it just must be in our blood.
Although Mal Meninga hasn't made the journey back to Vanuatu, his brother Jeff has.
This was my ancestral home, and it had been a long time since I wanted to go back there, and I was finally there, and I sort of met relatives, and it was just a great feeling being back there.
We'd like a fuller picture of our background, eh?
Yeah, and I don't think that'll ever happen, though. That's the thing, because
that's the problem.
Yeah,
because our elders are obviously passing away, and those stories get put in the grave with them.
Over the next month in Queensland, there will be a series of events trying to fill in some of the gaps.
It's a rich cultural history, the Australian South Sea Islanders and the plight of the Australian South Sea Islanders, the blackbirding, the Kanakas, how they've made a really important contribution to Queensland history and northern New South Wales history, particularly in the sugarcane industry and certainly the railways. So please, have a look at our history.
Vanuatu's Prime Minister has called on Australia to mark the 150th anniversary of the blackbirding trade by apologising to the people of Melanesia for what he's calling a shameful chapter in Australia's multicultural history.